how are you doing today? We just want to give you some time to log on, and we're excited to come into your home yet again for another one of our table talk experiences. Helen, I want to say I have really enjoyed doing this together with you.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. We've talked about this, and we're actually having a lot of fun.
Yes.
So we hope you are too.
One of the things I'm really enjoying is the fact that we get to interact with each other, and that's something we don't do on a Sunday morning. We don't interact. We don't go back and forth. And
this is new.
This is new for us.
This is new, and we're actually loving it.
Absolutely, we are. Yeah, we're loving it, and we're just thrilled that you're joining us and participating together with us. And while you're logging on and putting some stuff together, we started last time on just some shout-outs that we want to give out to some key people in our great city. And today I want to do a shout-out to all our city workers. And it's neat driving around the city and catching all of our workers and cleaning the streets and getting the spring movement going and things like that. And they've really done a great job of just coming back and doing normal life. And I think it's important, especially when there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of unknowns, and at least that aspect is going along. The city's doing a great job in portraying that, hey, we want to continue to engage people and take precautions, absolutely, but so our shout out is to our city. I think it's important for us to shout out to our city council. They have a lot of hard decisions to make, and we just want to say, hey, we support you. We appreciate you. Grateful for what you're doing, and we want to say, keep up the great work, and we just want to continue to champion what you're doing, because you're doing a great job. This is a wonderful city. I've never felt as connected before to a city as I have here in Estevan. And
I know.
We've only been here for 8 years, but it feels like this is our home.
Yes, this is
home. And so it's awesome. We just love it. Absolutely, we do. So welcome everybody.
Yes.
And my name is Geoff.
My name is Helen.
And we're coming to you live from 1920 Wellick Road. And we're excited to be in your home with us.
Yes.
We've talked about some pretty excited stuff. And we have coffee on the go. We hope you have coffee.
Yep.
And
I got decaf.
I have regular Tim
Because I was
Hortons
up till midnight last night.
I had struggling a little bit. And I had to go on the couch a few times because you were upset with me. No, just kidding. So we got our coffee on, and we're going to continue on our coffee conversation, and we want to welcome you to participate with us. And so, there's some exciting stuff we've talked about so far. And I want to say I really enjoy doing this together with you. I think this is a neat little change of pace for us.
And I love it because it feels so personal.
Yes.
And I feel like even you logging on, and even your messages afterward, and just hearing what's happening, just our conversation and how it does something.
I love
personally.
Interaction because it just tells us, because sometimes you're putting these things on, you're doing these things, and you don't really know if you're making much of an impact or if people are paying attention, listening. And so when you give us feedback, when you give us texts and things like that, I'm just telling you, that is just awesome and part of it. And we love to do this journey together with you because we are in process as well. We're working towards putting this together. We're working towards making adjustments in more life. And I know we've talked about that a little bit, the necessity of adjustments.
Oh, wow.
We've
had a big deal adjusting for a lot, just walking through this, we're walking through. So,
and I think it's important for those that are watching and tuning in to understand that we're just normal people, and we go through our own struggles. We have to make our own adjustments, and
sorry to let you down in that.
It's right. We don't have it all put together, and sometimes our tires blow, and we end up being on the side of the road wondering what in the world's going on.
And actually, I was thinking today, earlier this week I blew a tire. I blew a tire, and I had to just have some rest time.
Yes.
To get my emotions and everything back in order.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happens.
It does.
It happens.
And we want you to be encouraged in the process that it's normal to have a blowout. It's normal to struggle and not have the right decision to make. Sometimes it's normal to just wrestle with what's going on because we haven't gone through stuff like this before. And so that's why we want to know, and we want to be that place of hope. And we want to speak life into your situations. And it's important for us to have these communication or these table talks because we want to deal with just regular life stuff. And we've been talking some pretty amazing things. Talked about emotions and keeping our emotions in check. We talked about the big F word that we don't like to deal with very often. That's fear, and how fear, it's not how faith. What did I say? Fear.
You did say fear.
Yeah, no, we're talking about faith and how we overcome fear with faith. And so we talked about that F word, faith, and how important it is, and how all of us are people of faith, because faith is just the sum of what we believe, and what we believe always influences us and how we live, how life unfolds for us, and how and emotions we talked about that are an important part of our life. Emotions are necessary, but they shouldn't be in what?
Not in the driver's seat.
Not in the driver's seat.
They cannot drive us.
What happens if our emotions are in the driver's seat?
Well, we will lose our minds.
And perspective. And our bearings.
We will totally.
And we will most likely fall into a pattern of fear and crisis, and then we become damage control mindseted.
And the thing is, when we're in that place, it's really hard to be a part of the solution.
Yes, absolutely it is.
Remember, because we all are a part of the solution. We can all be a part of the solution.
And I love that point that you made, because we can always contribute to the problem and contribute to the panic and the chaos, or we can contribute to the solution and bring perspective. And we talked about that too, that perspective is something that's purposed. And it doesn't erase what's going on, but rather perspective gets us to move back and take a much bigger view of what's going on. Because I don't know about you, honey, but when I lose perspective, I get so zeroed in. And when I get zeroed in, I lose perspective, because all I see is the problem. But when we have perspective, we take a step back and we see a bigger picture, and we realize that's not all that's there. And
sometimes
God,
it's so little.
Yes, I love that God involves himself in that process, because he's the one that gives us a perspective that we often don't see. And in his perspective, there's always solutions, there's always hope, there's always an understanding, there's always faith. And then we talked about one thing too in our conversations that we've had with you, and that has to do with peace. I think that was one of our second ones we talked about, and how God was the God of peace. And we talked about the fact that he doesn't bring peace. He doesn't necessarily orchestrate peace, but he is the God of peace. And so wherever he shows up, it unfolds and it reveals itself, because that's what he brings. And so that's awesome. And what have we been studying the last couple mornings? Where have we been going at? We wanted to share some of the stuff here with our folks.
I was thinking, even of when I blew my tire earlier, we both kind of did. But
I'm not admitting to anything. So.
But you know what? Today, we are in a totally different place. We're in a totally different place. Because, and you know what I love? Is every morning we get up and we purpose to refocus. We purpose to refocus. So we're going through Philippians, and that has been amazing.
A neat experience. We took the time to go through Hebrews, and again, it's an overflow of our mornings, how we just want to refocus, because we are inundated with so much information and so much facts and so much skewed oftentimes information, because we're not given the full picture all the time. And so we take our mornings when we get up, make a pot of coffee, and we just realign ourselves and readjust. And we've been going through Philippians, and
we're still in Philippians chapter 1.
And what an encouragement it is. And what it does is it helps us get perspective. Kingdom perspective, God's perspective, because when we study the Bible, it's not about rules and regulations, because I grew up that way, and that really, really sent me on a bad word spiral when it comes to effort and doing and striving and I've burnt out a few times wondering what's wrong with me, and really it's not about striving. It's about allowing God, the Prince of Peace, the God of peace, to occupy the space in our life. And so whenever I look at the scriptures, whenever I study the scriptures, I look at it from that perspective that it's gonna benefit my whole being. And how I see things, how I react to things, how I look at things, and how I process things. And so
100%.
It's been a great help going through Philippians.
Yes, and I just, because this goes along with what we're saying, I posted this just so I'd remember it. When we choose the perspective of what God says about me, about the matter in front of me, about the situation, that's what matters. That's what changes. That's what gets us back on track. What He's spoken over us, that's what matters.
Last time we talked about being confident in this very thing. That God who began a good work in you will complete it.
That's amazing.
We talked about confidence, where confidence comes from, and how it's cultivated, because as soon as we understand that something isn't working, we have the tendency to want to control it. By stepping in, manipulating things, or orchestrating things, because we've lost confidence, and so we have to tend to want to control. And so one of the things that we're learning is not to do that. Allow the work that God already started. Put our faith in what He started. Because it tells us, it's a promise that He will complete it.
100%.
He's going to complete it.
Yes, He is.
Completed means He's going to bring it to a finished product. It's not something I do, but it's God that does it through me. And to me, that's what's exciting about this journey walking with God, is it's not about self-effort and trying hard and praying more and reading more and all these other things that we so often tie to that. It's not about that. It's, in one sense, it's about letting go.
Huge.
And letting God step in and lead us. Because He leads us to those things. And I want to tell you folks that are watching, God wants to lead you to perfect rest. He wants to lead you to perfect peace. He wants to lead you to a perspective that's so much bigger than what we can ever see. Because God is the one that opens our eyes to the surroundings and the circumstance around us. And so we want to speak hope into your life right now. We want to speak perspective into your life. And we want to say, in these times of uncertainty, there is somebody that brings a certainty. He brings a calm in the midst of the storm. And I'm telling you, it is real.
It is real.
It's alive inside of us.
Yes, it is.
And when it's alive inside of us, as we talked about in these other talks that we've been talking about, it is always transferable.
Yes, it is.
Our joy is transferable. Our peace is transferable.
Yes, it is.
Our perspective is transferable. Our confidence is transferable. And so we have the unique opportunity to make a difference in people's lives by not putting laws and regulations on them, but by allowing what's inside of us to become alive in them as well.
That's right. Bringing the peace.
Absolutely.
Bringing the hope.
And the amazing thing is, it has nothing to do with religion.
Amen.
It's everything to do with relationship. And that's the foundation of everything, is relationship. When it comes to God, what He does and where He works, it's always about relationship. And so we were talking this morning about a passage. We just went down a few verses as we were working through some stuff, and there's a verse that I would like to read in Philippians chapter 1 and verse 10, and I want us to talk about this a little bit, because it really is going to encompass another dynamic of bringing stability in turbulent times. And Paul, who's writing this letter, again, I think I mentioned to you last time that the church and the city of Philippi was going through issues. They had their struggles. There was things going on that caused instability and caused questions and often maybe even times panic or just wondering what to do next. And how he said in verse 6 that being confident, God started something, man, we don't have to waver. Because God starts, we need to rest in what He's doing. And then in verse 10, he writes something important. And I just want to share this with you because it's important, because we want to talk about this for a few minutes. And in Philippians chapter 1 and verse 10, it says, Paul's writing and says, I want you to understand
Yeah.
I want you to understand. Now, again, remember, they were in the midst of upheaval. They were in the midst of questions. They were in the midst of turmoil. They were in the midst of some turbulent waters in their life as well.
Yeah.
And so he writes and says, I want you to understand what really matters.
Yes. Wow.
I really want you to get
Yes.
what really matters.
Yes.
Why would that be important?
Yeah.
Why would knowing understanding
Yeah.
what really matters, why would that be important?
You know what? When we're surrounded with so much stuff and turmoil, I feel like sometimes we just get overwhelmed and drown.
Yes.
And we totally get off track of
Yes.
what does really matter. It's really hard sometimes to keep that,
Yes.
right?
I remember I put a little point. I love what you're saying because
Yeah.
I just put a little scribble here as we sat on the set.
Yeah.
I just said that we are sometimes inundated by so much information
Yeah.
that we forget or we lose sight of the stuff that really matters.
Yes.
We get so much information brought and we
Yes.
just don't know what to do with it. And
Yes.
sometimes we panic and sometimes we
Yeah.
completely lose perspective.
Yes.
So he's writing with that in mind. He says, I want you to understand
Yes.
the idea. This is what's awesome. The idea of understanding means you get it.
Yes.
It's not about getting more information that you can put in your memory bank.
Yeah.
It's not about acquiring more knowledge about something, but rather
Yes.
he's saying he wants us to understand. He wants us to get. It's almost like the light turns on.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yes.
So he's writing that.
Yes.
I want you to understand.
And I sometimes when you have the light bulb moment and you begin to see through all of what's going on and all of a sudden you just get a clear picture, there is a rest that comes.
Yes.
There's something that you can breathe.
David said something in Psalm 23. He says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Or another version says, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no harm.
No harm.
Because you, talking about God, are with me. All of a sudden, he gained perspective.
Yes.
All of a sudden, there was a confidence that rose up in him because he knew God was there with him in the midst.
Yeah.
And that's important to understand.
Yeah.
Whenever we're in turbulent waters, whenever we're filled with more questions and answers, God is there, going to bring us to a place of revelation to understand because he loves us so much. He cares about us and he values us as people that he doesn't want us to miss. He doesn't want us to miss his best.
Yep.
And so, again, getting back to this, he wanted them to understand. He wanted them to get it. I don't know about you, honey, but sometimes I struggled in school. Most of my time I struggled in school because one, I couldn't pay attention and things didn't go fast enough and you know, I found myself often in the principal's office because I couldn't pay attention or you know, I wasn't passing and I wasn't because I process things different.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I like about the body. That's what I think I like about God is there's not one way of processing.
I know.
He understands how we're made because he
Yes.
made us.
Yes.
He understands how we
Yes.
learn.
Yes.
And so he's our best teacher.
Yes.
And so when he says, I want them to understand, he's saying, I want them to get it.
Yeah.
I want them to get it.
Yes.
And how you get it sometimes is different than how I get it. I mean, we've talked about our journey with God,
Oh, wow.
how different we are and how
Yes.
different we process.
Yes.
But yet God brings us to the same spot of revelation so that we get it.
Yes.
And the amazing thing, people, is when we get it,
Yeah.
it comes alive.
Yeah.
It comes alive.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between religion and relationship. Religion has nothing to do with life. It's about rules.
Yeah.
But relationship has to do with life. And when you come alive inside with what God declares over us, whew, everything opens up.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's an exciting journey then, even
Yes,
though
it is.
we can have questions in the midst. So he wanted them to get it.
Yep.
He says, I want you to understand what really matters.
Yes. Yeah.
Man, there's a lot of things
Yeah.
that all of us go through
Yes.
that
Yeah.
doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yet it has a significant influence because
Yes.
we're inundated by so much
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's important in the midst of that stuff, we've got to allow ourselves to have filters And some things we have to learn to turn off. Some things we have to learn to reroute. Some
Yeah.
things we have to learn to readjust.
Yeah.
Because that information isn't pertinent. Sometimes it's just there to bring fear. Sometimes it's there just to bring mistrust.
Yeah.
And you question everything.
Yes.
But he wanted to understand what really matters. Why would it be important to understand what really matters?
Yeah.
What are some things that you...
Well, can I go on to the next part of the verse a little bit to actually explain it a little bit?
Okay, what really matters so that you can live a genuine, sincere life without offense.
Yes. A genuine, real life without offense. There is something about being able just to be you, just real, just genuine, just because we're all unique. And how we process and go through some of these things, there's going to be 100 different opinions. There's going to be different things coming out. And you know what? Sometimes when all of that is going, we can quite easily just fall right into offense, because my opinion might be very different than yours. Right. My perspective might be different than yours.
Yes.
And I feel like what really matters is key to actually how we walk through.
Yes.
When there's so much different information and different opinions, different personalities.
Yes.
You know, how do we get from this point to that point where we can actually just let go, be real, and not
value people in the process?
Yes.
I think when we get offended and have offense, we right away put up walls. And one of the biggest things that I find in my own life that I've had to work through is when someone has a different opinion about what really matters.
Yes.
And I want to either push back, or I want to fight, or I want to make my point, and really to step back and allow people to process the way they do. And learn through that experience. Give people grace. Give people the opportunity to rise above what's keeping them down. And so I just think that just really encompasses the heart of what Paul wanted the people he was writing to get it, because division is something that happens so naturally. And often it's when turbulent times come, when questions and unanswers. I mean, that's often where offense really ripens hard, because we don't know the answers sometimes. We want people to change, but we can't make them change. And oftentimes we do try to make them change, and it just pushes them further away.
And you know what? I think it actually goes back to even what we talked about last time, is God is doing something. God is present, and he is working. And you know what? If you're still here, God's not done.
No.
And so I feel like we are going to see some amazing things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've said this before. This is not an end of anything.
No.
This is but a beginning of something really unique, because what it's going to do is it's going to force us to be innovative. It's going to force us to relook at things and do things different. I'm telling you, babe, I don't want church to be the same when we left here when this crisis happened.
No.
I want us to adapt, and I want us to be innovative and shift our thinking, shift how we do it, and be strategic in how we can learn from these experiences. And I think that's the heart of God. It's not about one particular opinion. It's about understanding what works and adapting and adjusting and learning.
And I asked myself this question because I've been there. I have actually felt offended. What do you do when you feel that way? Because my opinion is very different than somebody else's. And so I have to take a step back and saying, why? Why do I feel that? And you know what? For the most part, I had down here, sometimes everything is so loud around you. Fear and all is so loud. It's hollering so loud that you can't hear the truth. You can't hear the peace God's speaking. You can't hear and feel actually that God is very present and he's fighting for you already. You know, and then when you're in that place, it feels like I just want everybody to have my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, you have to control the circumstances or the people, and that's a lot of responsibility. But when we grow in knowledge, in revelation knowledge, and insight flowing from the right source,
Yeah.
it's going to free us to let go.
I love what you said.
Free us to let
the
go.
right source, because
Yes.
we
Yeah.
will become
Yeah.
what we feed on the most.
Yes.
And if
Yes.
we feed on negative and our
Yes.
fears and not
Yes.
push through some of the, and I'm
Yes.
speaking from experience,
Yes.
folks.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this because we're saying
Yeah.
this. We are saying this because we're working through this ourselves.
Yes.
This is real to us.
Yes, it is.
And if we fill it,
Yeah.
it all depends on what we fill ourselves with.
Yes.
Will have the greatest influence
Yes.
on us. And so
Yes.
we've got to be feeding from the right sources.
Yes. Yeah.
And a big test to see what source we're drawing from is what is the results.
Yes. Absolutely.
If the results is fear, if the results is panic, if the results is offense,
Yeah. Yeah.
all those things,
Yes.
we're drawing from the wrong source.
Yes.
And it's not that we're bad people
No.
or that we're dumb and stupid and need to get tuned up. We just have the opportunity then to make adjustments.
Yes.
And I want to encourage you,
Yes.
life is
Yes.
full of adjustments.
Yes.
It's full of adjustments.
Yeah.
And I want you to be
100%.
okay
Yeah.
with making adjustments.
Yes.
Because that's what journey is all about,
Yeah.
is making these adjustments.
Yeah.
And it's
We've
not
got-
about one person
Yeah.
understanding more than the next person and
No.
why aren't you there when you should be there? It's
Yeah.
about making the adjustments
Yes.
in my own life,
Yes.
aligning myself to the source, the right source,
Yes.
which is God, His
Yes.
presence and His truth,
Yes.
and His declarations over my life.
Yes.
And when I line up to
Yeah.
that source,
Yes.
then my life begins to bear the fruit of that source.
Whatever your source is going to bring
I've
the fruit
always
of
had
whatever
I've
that-
always believed
Yep.
that
Yeah.
we are a product of the environment that we fill ourselves most with.
Yeah.
And I think this
Yes.
is awesome opportunity because
Yes,
it
it is.
really shows
Yes.
where our roots are.
Yes.
And it doesn't expose us in a bad way. It shows us where we can
Yeah.
realign
Yeah.
and hook our roots into
Yes.
something else. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I'm not discouraged by that. I'm like, that's
No.
great. I want to know
Yeah.
that. Now I can realign
Exactly.
and make
Yeah.
readjustments.
Because we're doing that.
We're doing
We're
that.
doing that
We
on
can-
a
we-
daily at
folks,
home.
we can have.
Yeah.
She can have a blowout. Of course, I
Yes.
never have blowouts. She could have a blowout.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I have
Yeah.
more blowouts than she does. But we can have these blowouts.
Yeah.
Instead of going down
Yes.
a victim trail and feel sorry for
Yes.
ourselves, we have the opportunity to make
Yes.
adjustments.
Yes. And saying, okay, that was from the wrong source right there. There's
Yes.
a root. Okay, I actually want to remove that one.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I'm actually going to replant.
When I stick my straw
Yep.
in an ice cold Coke
Yeah.
and I start sucking on it, I get ice cold Coke.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that
Yes.
where I'm sticking my hose, my source in the
That's
right
right.
spot, because
Yes. Yes.
that's what's going to enter
Yeah.
into me. And so,
Absolutely.
and I think
Yeah.
Jesus even talks
Yeah.
about that in Philippians as well, a little further on.
Yeah.
That we need to think on right
Yes.
things
Yeah.
that are honorable, right, and
Yes.
pure, and building, and
Yes.
all those aspects. And that's why I say it's so important. God brings that perspective.
Yes,
I
he
grew
does.
up feeling that God always brought a negativity to
Yeah.
my life, and I
Yeah.
wasn't doing anything
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
And
I
how
have
that
that
is
down
so
here.
wrong.
Yes.
And I created offense inside towards God because I thought
Yes.
He wasn't just, and He was always at me.
Yeah.
He was always coming at me, but always revealing who He was
Yes.
to give me hope
Yes.
and open up my perspective to see who I am.
Yes.
And again, it's
Yeah.
like that source where
Yeah.
what we draw our source
Yeah.
from will indicate
Yeah.
what our fruit will be.
Yeah.
And I think this is
Yes.
an hour and a moment where we can rise up to the occasion
Yeah.
and speak
Yes.
that life in other people.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
And be transferable with who is
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah. So what really matters, and I feel like I just want to say this, is that person beside you might have a different opinion than you. That's what matters.
Yes.
Is this freedom of letting go, freedom of giving grace, freedom of,
Yeah.
don't take offense. It is such a freeing place.
And that's
You know,
what he writes. He says,
yes.
again,
Yeah.
it's like that verse says, it says, for I want you to
Yeah.
understand
Yes.
what really matters.
Yes.
so you can live a genuine, sincere life. How much of our life do you think have we been fake?
Oh.
Hide behind Bible verses, hide behind doctrines,
Yeah.
hide behind those stuff, and yet
Yeah.
inside
Yeah.
we're fighting tooth and nail to stay above water
Yes.
in the sense of because
Yeah.
there's so much pressure on us.
Yes.
To be real
Yeah.
and genuine,
Yes.
and to really be
Yeah.
who God's created us to be.
Yeah.
And
Amazing freedom.
And so to understand what really matters, so you can live a
Yes.
genuine, sincere life
Yes.
without offense.
Yes.
I want to say this about offense because I can talk from experience. Offense will derail you.
Yes. It will rob you. It will
I have
steal
had
you.
that happen to me this week several times where I've had to put the train back on the tracks
Yeah.
because I was derailed.
Yeah.
Offense will always derail us.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
when we have
Yeah.
the perspective that God gives us,
Yeah.
and he gives us the grace to make those adjustments.
Yes.
And that's why I can say
Yeah.
hope always is alive.
Yes, it is.
Hope always is alive.
Yes. Because we've seen it. We've
Absolutely
seen it.
we have.
When we've gone derailed.
Yes.
Today, total peace.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you can come back to the right source.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can get perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Find that
we want to wrap this up because
Yes.
it's our 25 minutes
Yes.
up, and we want to honor that. And we are so grateful that we have the
Yes.
privilege to come into your home, whether you're online right now
Yeah.
or watch us later on. It has been a
Yes.
privilege of both Helen and myself to
Yes.
come into your home and
Yes.
share with you some of our
Yeah.
table talk conversation.
Yeah. We
and,
love
and
it.
we love it, and we
Yeah.
just love you being a part of what we're doing. And
Yes.
as we close, I mean, if you're looking for more resources and different information, you can go to our website, which is estevancog.com.
Yeah.
And you will find messages there that I've preached. You'll find some worship that we've recorded just spontaneously here and there for your enjoyment. There's opportunities for you to click on series that I've done. I've done a series on epic battles, and it just talks about how different character and historical figures went through struggle in the Bible and how they walked through and worked through. And so
Yes.
it's called
And
Epic
overcame.
Battles. It's all there. Or you can go to our YouTube page and take a look at our YouTube channel where all our
Lots of
videos are on there
awesome
live.
stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of material. There's some short versions of some of our talks that we do. We want to
Yeah.
put stuff like this on it
Yeah.
as well, so you can
Yeah.
let other people know about it. And the big thing is hit subscribe. That way you can keep in tune with what's going on and what new things that are coming on.
And our heart is to always bring life
Yes.
and hope. I mean, because we know that God has your best interest in mind.
Yes, he does.
Believes in you, no matter where you are, where
Absolutely.
you've been. We don't care.
Yeah.
God is so for us.
So yeah,
You know,
we just want to thank you again, estevancog.com for our website.
Yes.
Like us on Facebook, Estevan Church of God,
And
YouTube.
we're excited for Sunday.
Yes.
Yes,
We
we
are
are going to
gonna
talk
come-
about the greatest flipping story in all of history.
Yes. And
And
she's
we're
been
excited
talking a little
about
bit
that.
already about what she wants to talk about, and that is going to be exciting. And so we want to
Yeah.
welcome you
So,
into
yeah.
our studio as you let us walk into
Yes.
into your home.
Yeah.
Sunday morning at 10:30,
Yes.
bright and early. We'll
Yeah.
have the coffee on, and we'll be
10:30.
excited to interact again.
Yes.
And have a
Yeah.
privilege of being connected with you. Thank you so much again
Thanks for
tuning
joining
in.
us, guys.
Have a great rest of the week. We
Yeah.
love you, and God bless you.